It's another episode of Write Once, Read Many. This time covering 28.4 from Arc 28, Cockroaches. Oh, Vic says, did something new on the perspective today. It looks like, either like fisheye-y or like anti-fisheye or something. I don't know how to describe it. What would you describe it as, Vic? Not too sure how I feel about it, but the Seamerg was giving fisheye. Okay, okay. So we'll see, of course, the scene where the Seamerg is displayed on all sorts of monitors. And as a reminder, the audience participation question here was, what sort of mythological creature would you base an Endbringer on? And what fundamental force would it be connected to? Oh, before I get too far into it, we got a comment on a previous video. Forgot to bring it up beforehand, but it's in my notes here to talk about. Let's see here. Go to my channel. Manage videos. Here it was for 25.x, which has the same music we just listened to. And they said, love the music from @beeswaxminder. That's right. They are busy minding they own beeswax. And they left this comment 6 months ago. You know what? I take it back. It isn't the music you just heard. It is, the song, Extinction. No, that's what we just listened to. It was Crushed. Crushed was the song. That's right. Crushed. Anyway, this is a longer speed draw than I expected. It's going on and on. Let's see here. But yeah, it's always nice to get comments. I get very few comments. Not many viewers, as some would imagine. But yeah. Vic says, I was doing a lot of thinking, I guess, during it. It seems like there's just a lot of, like, individual lines, and however long or short it takes for the speed draw to show it, maybe doesn't match up 100% of the way. I'm not sure. Maybe this one just took you forever to do. Let's take those hands off. For themes, the theme of this chapter is go big or go home. Or it's probably more like go big and also don't go home because your home was destroyed. And also, like, I guess the theme of Tattletale trying to get to, like, the root of mysteries and stuff. Vic says, yeah, it's all based off the lines I draw rather than actual draw time. Yeah. That's what I thought. So it's not necessarily correlated, even though it might be. Oh, and another theme is the Tattletale talks about as I had said, the fundamental force that is connected to the Endbringers and their general the power is for Behemoth. The power is dynakinesis, but then the Behemoth part of it is everything else. Really, it's like the imagery, the stuff he's not doing, the slow moving nature, like all these things. Vic says, theme of this chapter is Tattletale talking. He's so cringe, this one. Or taking L's. Taking L's, sorry. The last part, I thought totally misread. I guess she takes some L's. I think the reason she's so cringe in this one, to me, like, more than normal, is because she's doing her normal thing, but she's, like, mostly wrong about her premises, even though we wouldn't necessarily know that as the readers yet. Still, it all works out. And my argument is, because we see how the Seamerg thinks at a slightly later point, that it works out because the Seamerg saw that these are the actions that she could take that would move things in the right direction. So Tattletale is actually right. She doesn't need to know their exact words or even their exact intent. Just she needs to decide on a path where they all move along the same sort of lines. She's got kind of a weird sense of the world, that Seamerg. Vic says, I assume this is all to do something super, super evil later. Yeah, evil enough. I mean, I'm the one who agreed with you last time that the Seamerg is just too evil to deal with, and yet here they are. Anyway. Oh, Vic says, Taylor's pretty fucked for going to Seamerg first. Yeah, although I think that it's Tattletale's decision to go to the Seamerg first. They never discuss it, so we don't see who says to do it, but isn't it... I don't know. It sort of seems like it would be something Tattletale decided. Getting in at the beginning of the chapter summary, we start with the two dragon ships arriving at the Seamerg, and the Dragonfly is carrying Taylor, Rachel, Aisha, Tattletale, Sophia, and Lung. The Pendragon is there with Defiant, Narwhal, Saint, Miss Militia, Vista, Kid Win, Golem, Parian, and Foil. 15 capes to fight the Seamerg if things go bad. That seems like enough, right? 1 cape for every foot tall the Seamerg is. Nothing could possibly go wrong. Yeah. When you think about this chapter from the sort of outside, and you're like, what if Sophia was just right and the Seamerg just attacked them? I think that all of these people would get totally murked. But this is the go big or go home chapter, as many chapters become. We've got some intra-team fighting, or the intra-team fighting from 10 minutes ago has stopped. Even Sophia sombered as they actually arrive at the stationary Endbringer. Vic says, Sophia totally seems right here. Yeah, the more times I read this, the more I'm like, yeah. Like, if we didn't already know what was gonna happen, like, seems bananas. But, she has the presence of mind to cool it now that they're actually there. Defiant takes remote control of the Dragonfly and sets the screens to show camera feeds of the Seamerg from both of the ships. So that's what you're seeing now, all the various layered images. And it talks specifically about, like, her hair being, like, more than artificial and, like, flipping through the wind with no, like, clumping or, like, braiding. It's just, like, each strand is an individual. And then, yeah, they're circling on opposite sides of her. Taylor gets up and stretches herself while she's getting her bugs ready. She's chaining 2 relay bugs so they can maintain a better distance. And, like, she thinks, worst case scenario, if one of the relay bugs gets destroyed and she loses the swarm, like, that swarm wasn't going to help them fight the Seamerg anyway. Vic says, yeah, distance is going to save you here. I think it's actually enough distance that she might be right when she theorizes that one ship could fly away while the other ship was getting torn apart. Because we never see what the range of it is, but clearly the Seamerg has, like, barely limited range telekinesis. So things are so still that Taylor is momentarily worried about hypnotic paralysis and the possibility that the Seamerg can use the effects of her psychic scream without them knowing she's using it, like without hearing the scream. And so now that they're close enough to see the Seamerg zoomed in on cameras, they're watching for any movement or sign that she noticed their approach. Vic says, but Seamerg always has a bigger plan. The second ship will be the real tragedy. Yeah, that's true. The ones who survived will remember the others who died, and then that will cause them to do a bad thing later. So Tattletale increases her estimation from 65 to 70% chance she's right. Taylor thinks back through the reasons she hadn't been able to fight the Seamerg in the past. We know about the time when Flight BA-178 was attacked, but we also learned that when Manchester was attacked, Taylor hadn't been able to cut through the red tape and get to go to the battle. And she tried to, like, preempt this with Miss Yamada giving her the go-ahead to join the fight when the Seamerg attacked Paris, but Jessica sidestepped, saying she sidestepped having to say no by saying that Taylor's record will be more clean because she's not going to fight the Seamerg. They confirm the plan before they start. Tattletale's going to talk, and Taylor will relay everything through bug speak. And after a final acknowledgement that they may be accidentally activating the Seamerg to fight against them, they begin. As soon as Taylor starts talking through the bugs, the Seamerg rotates to maintain facing the Dragonfly. Alarms are going off inside the ship, and a bunch of weapons get ready and stuff, but neither side attacks. After being surprised and stopping for a moment, Tattletale introduces herself. There's no apparent reaction or acknowledgement aside from rotating in place to keep looking at the Dragonfly. So Tattletale, because before it had been stationary, so their cameras slowly rotated. Now the Seamerg's rotating, so the view of her, it became stationary. Anyway, Tattletale brings up to the Seamerg that she started acting differently when Eidolon was killed, then tries to leverage her guess that Eidolon created the Endbringers. Unfortunately for her, there's no visible reaction. Taylor looks at a view of the capes in the Pendragon, seeing alarm and confusion to match how she had felt minutes ago while watching the Eidolon camera footage. They're all like, what? I can't believe it. Eidolon would make the Endbringers? And I gotta tell you, I can't believe it either. Some would say that I don't believe that Tattletale's correct. Yes. Going with the idea that Eidolon created the Endbringers, Tattletale talks about loneliness being one of the main traits of masters, and gives examples of how Eidolon was cut off from even the other members of the Triumvirate, who had other things going for them, describing Eidolon and the Endbringers being symbiotic in their need for battle. And getting no reaction from anything they've said so far, Taylor starts to think about how the Seamerg could tear apart either of the dragon ships, hoping that if the other ship, hoping that if she does, the other ship would have enough time to flee. And holding off the conversation with the Seamerg for a minute, they start talking in ship. Tattletale admits this isn't going this isn't going as well as she'd hoped. So it's not just not going well; it's going more poorly than she expected. Taylor reminds her that the Seamerg isn't human and won't operate like they do. And they open the conversation to all the capes involved. Narwhal gets a line here. She thinks that they could use powers to send signals and communicate on a level that the Seamerg can actually understand. Vic says, I don't know why Tattletale thought the Seamerg would have any tells. I mean, that's a good point. She's like, the Endbringers aren't just immune from like some powers or whatever, like they really like have a block on even like really good powers. She's able to learn a small amount about their physiology, but more or less doesn't find out any new information about them after the behemoth fight, when she like sort of barely gets enough info to do whatever. Yeah, Vic says she's like so unhuman. Yeah. My power just keeps saying the same thing. So yeah, Taylor, of course, worries that that using powers might be seen as an attack, and Tattletale justifies with, she's smart enough to figure out convoluted chains of cause and effect, but not to take a gesture of communication for what it is. I say we try it. To which Shadowstalker quietly mutters, "Oh my god, you're gonna get us all killed." And Imp quips about how dying here might be better than waiting for Scion to kill them. And after confirming that Canary's power works on like only humans, Tattletale reminds us of what Bonesaw said in Arc 13, that the passengers that manage the powers scan the world and set up limits to the powers. This both like limits the user and protects them from their own powers typically. But you know, it's why Canary's power knows to be specific to humans and not like mammals. And it's why, like, you know, all the various limits happen, is the interaction at the trigger event. And then Defiant asks how that helps the... Oh, no, sorry. Miss Militia and Defiant are both baffled by the idea that Eidolon created the Endbringers. Tattletale's line of reasoning is that Eidolon's power seems different and doesn't seem to have the same limiters as everyone else. Which, they, like, briefly attribute that, saying, like, maybe it's all Cauldron powers, but we have sort of more information from, you know, Ward and stuff that pretty obviously confirms that Eidolon's power is generally different than the vast majority of Cauldron powers. Defiant asks us how that helps them now. Tattletale wants to express a message to the Seamerg by displaying the secondary uses of their powers to give off the vibe of what they want from her. So, Tattletale wants Rachel, Imp, and Canary to be on the outside of the ships, all using their powers without being able to target anyone or anything with the effects that they each have. Taylor starts putting her flight pack onto Imp, who's finally run out of quips. And she says maybe when she's come back inside from talking to the Seamerg, then she'll have something to say. Then I have this kind of huge sections of just taking the text from the chapter, or like just the quotes, because I was like, this is really, really getting hard to sum up. Like, it's a chapter of almost exclusively dialogue, so... after a certain point. They're talking through what they each represent, and Imp had said that she has to pay attention to turn off her power, otherwise it's on. So it starts with, "Don't pay attention then. Leave it running. We're trying to express an attitude." Vic says, "I like that Canary gives the least pushback on this situation." Yeah, there's a certain point which I could understand if Canary was feeling, or if literally any of them were feeling this, which is like, beyond a certain level of dangerousness, there's almost no difference. Like, getting blasted by a Scion Blast or having your ship blown up by the Seamerg are both, like, they're just so overwhelmingly powerful on an individual level that it kind of can't be any more scary than if a guy, like, cut you in half with a laser who wasn't Scion, I guess. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. There's like an event horizon of fear. Rather than a fear of the movie Event Horizon. Anyway, starting back over the little quote section. So, we're trying to express an attitude. What attitude is Imp? Nonviolence, passivity, at least as far as we're concerned. And Rachel? A call to arms, expression of strength. And Canary is cooperation? Something along those lines. Lung would be too violent, and the focus of Vista's power is too location-driven? I have no idea how she'd take Narwhal's power, because it's pretty evenly split between offense and defense. Kind of abstract. And then, breaking from the conversation for a second, I summarized some of it, trying not to just do all of that. Even though both of them think that they might be reaching a bit, this is the best plan they have. Taylor wants to make one change and send Shadowstalker instead of Imp, and this gets the expected negative reaction from Sophia and expected delight from Aisha. So they kind of ignore her at first, as though she's not flipping out again. Shadowstalker's power doesn't express itself over an area or any particular medium. It's more personal. Can't she represent us? Or can't the personal effect represent us? If we had Imp flying up there way out of range of any of us, we're still expecting her to represent our group, or humanity as a whole, aren't we? Shadowstalker keeps objecting, then Taylor compromises with Tattletale by sending them both out. Imp explains, half joking, half serious, that she would send the wrong message, and they shouldn't send her out there. But Tattletale shushes her, wanting to hear Taylor's thought process. Why Shadowstalker? Because Imp is too passive. Way too passive! So's Shadowstalker, but Shadowstalker's passenger isn't. If there are any undertones, any way that the passengers influence our actions, then Shadowstalker was definitely influenced. I dug through her old records, read up on her history. What? She got aggressive after she got her powers. Generally more... You fucking looked at my records? More violent than most people would be, in her shoes. Lashing out, aimlessly at first, and then with a target, channeling the aggression. Except, it was the same amount of violence, just concentrated into fewer incidents, alongside a pretty extensive bullying campaign. You're doing this because of a grudge? Let's do it. Go with our guts. Imp and Shadowstalker on the roof. Bitch, either you or Bastard need to head over to the Pendragon. Canary on the roof of the Pendragon, singing with nobody listening. You're not getting me outside, or any of that shit. You're scared. That is so cute. Is it a fear of heights? A fear of the Seamerg? I'm not scared. I'm being sensible. This is lunacy. And for what? Charades with the Endbringer? That was a metaphor. It sounds fucking stupid. I've changed my mind. I'm going. I'm not going to get lumped in with Sissy McNancy Pants over here and get called a coward. I'm not scared. So, after reading that whole big section, yes, I love the dialogue. Great stuff. Vic says, of course we're afraid of the Seamerg. I like that Imp, who is clearly afraid of the Seamerg, is taunting Sophia for being afraid of the Seamerg. So indeed, my summary here, because I, tried to not just all quotes all the time. Imp taunts Shadowstalker, bringing up hearing stories from Gru, and now she's unimpressed with like the real deal. Taylor taunts Sophia, saying she's a bully who only wants to fight opponents she knows she can beat. Then Sophia says that she fought Endbringers before and she won't be manipulated into a dangerous situation. Taylor corrects that she fought Endbringers as part of an army of capes, but she wouldn't put herself in the line of fire. Fuck you, Hebert. Fuck you. And then that, she says that, but despite moments ago saying that she wouldn't be manipulated, indeed, Shadowstalker phases through the windshield of the Dragonfly and is in her shadow state on the nose of the ship. Narwhal uses a force field platform to bring Rachel to the Pendragon, leaving Bastard behind on the Dragonfly, which only gets minor notice from Narwhal, or from the Seamerg. She follows the Seamerg force field as it goes, basically. Lung's composure is seemingly showing the smallest of cracks. Either that or he is just truly like so bored with everything that this Seamerg situation isn't enough for him. He thinks what they're doing seems ridiculous. There's some back and forth with Lung and Tattletale that sort of gets Tattletale to start talking to the Seamerg through Taylor again. He's saying that he left her hanging, essentially, in the conversation. And Tattletale doesn't think that matters. Doesn't think it's gonna actually affect how the Seamerg is operating. After Tattletale tries to begin where she left off, Canary starts singing, and it's able to carry through the bugs and cameras and such. So they all like take a moment to filter her out of the audio being sent through the cameras, and Taylor like stops focusing on her bugs. But unfortunately for everyone but the Seamerg, when Canary's voice gets filtered out of the system, the Seamerg starts screaming to fill in the gap. Miss Militia informs us that it's not at full strength, but they gotta get out of here in the next 5 minutes. Everyone is stressed as fuck, of course, and Tattletale starts cutting to the chase, finally saying outright that they want the Endbringers to join them to fight Scion. Tattletale's desperately begging the Seamerg, like, saying, even if it's just so she can destroy them later, man. Even if you kill me later, man, I don't care. But, then it almost feels like backtracking when Tattletale starts presenting like personal motivations like vengeance for Behemoth and Eidolon. Vic says they're harmonizing. Assume that's Canary and Seamerg. And Canary has said in the past how she's done all these things to keep people from thinking of her as being like the Seamerg. So maybe the Seamerg is doing a thing where she's trying to influence all these people to not trust Canary. I wouldn't put it past her. So internally, Taylor starts questioning how effective this whole gambit is. Even if they're right about Eidolon creating the Endbringers, Tattletale says this is like talking to an answering machine. And on top of that, she can't use her standard method of needling someone until they crack if it's an Endbringer. And then we hear from seemingly Parian in the Pendragon. Let me see. Does it say it's Parian? Parian? I think it is. Maybe foil? It's either Parian or foil. Let's see. Yeah, it says, Tattletale's being cautious. Must be the end of the world after all. And then they've got 3 minutes left, and Tattletale is rethinking her approach, like talking to the people in the Dragonfly again for ideas. The scream starts like warping over time, and Taylor's like, "Oh, I don't know about this." Rachel says they should appeal to anger, that cutting off Behemoth's leg made him angry enough to stick around and get killed. Taylor thinks back to the fallout from other Seamerg attacks and gets freaked out. She's just internally freaking out. She's not yelling or anything. She's just kind of like, "Oh, oh," in her heart. Once again, Tattletale starts talking to Ziz, this time appealing to the idea that there won't be any humans left, so she won't have a purpose once there's no one for her to fight. Tattletale accuses the Seamerg of planning one last sad act to justify her existence. And this finally elicits a proper reaction from the Seamerg, who looks over her shoulder. Which is the moment we know it's worked, basically. Like, we don't, I guess the audience doesn't know yet, but just logically reading the next few paragraphs, this is the moment. And apparently, she is looking westward, and if you trace the globe 180 integers of longitude, which sounds to me like exactly halfway around the world, then she's looking at where Leviathan has just appeared. And they were already expecting an Endbringer appearance in this location, so there's cameras on site showing Leviathan standing on the surface of the water perfectly still. Cool imagery, cool thoughts with the raging storms around him. I think there's a lot of like just really low-key, like amazing moments of visual storytelling in these last sections. Anyway, final push style in the conversation. Even though we know she's already succeeded, Tattletale starts to say that Scion is the main person to fight, and the person who will beat the Seamerg to the punch as far as ending the world goes. She starts speaking faster and more intense, almost running out of breath. And after she says some insults to the Seamerg, then seemingly the Seamerg like bumps them with her telekinesis, and then the autopilot takes over and resettles them. But this causes Tattletale to stop for a second before going back in at her. Defiant tells Tattletale to stop, which initially seems like it's because he thinks that she's provoking the Seamerg too much, but he clarifies that they have succeeded. And they see through the monitors that the Leviathan is now following an Azazel ship under the water's surface, and the two dragon ships here break from their orbit of the Seamerg, and as they leave, she follows. Dun dun dun! And that sort of seems like it could be the end of the chapter. It's actually just a page break. I'm going to take a moment to drink this now perfectly temperatured coffee, which I made just before starting the thing. We can all reflect for a moment on our thoughts of how ominous it is that the Seamerg is following them. Vic said, "Oh no, it's still piping hot." Yeah, I got myself just now. So, after the page break, we are at the site of an Earth Tav settlement. And this is like sort of a core settlement at a portal that was set up by Labyrinth and Scrub's powers interacting. One of the various ones that Faultline had opened. And bombs are going off. They're like bombing the camp, but they also left essentially a bunch of mines at the portal entrance. So a bunch of, like, the Pendragon goes through first because it's a beefier ship, and it just gets like exploded a bunch. And they say if the dragonfly had gone through, then it would have been like completely destroyed. And even when it lands, then another bomb goes off under the Pendragon as it hits the ground. And they're sort of, I mean, they might be banged up in the ship, but everybody's alive in the Pendragon. And we can assume that they will all be full healed later because they have like multiple high class healers at this point helping their cause. And yeah, the Yangban have a bunch of movement powers, so they move really fast, and then like a low quality but good enough power that makes them all blurry and hard to see. So they're just speeding around as blurs, and like even if in a normal daytime setting you could probably see them, they're quite difficult to see. Let's see here. Vic says, yeah, but 2 of those high-class healers are perverts. It's true, they're big perverts, but that's not... See, the thing is, if I'm Taylor, I'm thinking, I'm not touching this pervert's hand. But if I'm Golem, I'm like, yeah, I'll let this person heal me. They don't all personally know that doctor to know that she's a damn pervert. So yes, she's like thinking about their powers more, and it says they didn't move but flickered, existing as scarce smudges and streaks of black and an odd midnight blue from regions of their heads. So, obviously, hearing about black and midnight blue, I thought about Neo Yokio immediately.
I can see you, bitch. You're wearing a black tuxedo against a midnight blue sky.
The perfect clip. So yeah, they're like mutilating the people in some cases, and sometimes they're killing them. These are a bunch of like Australian civilians who had come through this portal. They'll like slice off their hands or cut their ears or their eyes. It's fucking crazy. She thinks to herself, what would the CUI want with scores of butchered people? And my impression was just that if they kill the people, then that's like a certain difficulty, like for the opposing side. But if they injure them and their opposition is like forced to take care of the people, that's more of a resource dedication. After the fact, that's like the only thing I could come up with. But also, it is like the CUI, their current leadership structure is like 100% chance in power because of a CMERG plot that happened with the Flight BA 178. So they could just be being crazy and cruel because of like the mad whims of power of the particular leader, because they have a very like top down structure, I think. Vic says it's because they're kind of fucked up. They're kind of twisted, actually. They shop at Hot Topic. I'm just a little twisted. And so she thinks about how the individual Yang Band members are like brainwashed cult members. So she says that didn't make their actions forgivable. It's like kind of it's a weird thing. Like I think it would be on a pretty case by case basis if you caught a Yangban member after the fact. But in the moment to moment, I don't see any reason to not frag them in combat, because like The stakes are pretty big right now. We can't go fucking around. So, the Seamerg bursts through the portal all folded up and then unfolds herself and makes her wings into a big halo around herself, to just look really intimidating. At first, Tattletale says that they need to give the Seamerg orders, but it's unclear if Tattletale was wrong or if the Seamerg just took their orders from context clues, but she flies past them and then starts fucking Seamerg screaming at full strength, and then like pulling up debris from the ground with her telekinesis, and just like vehicles and metal and concrete and everything, and forms a big cloud around herself, and then like the Yangban try to like bomb her, but it doesn't really work, or I mean maybe it hits her, but it doesn't matter. And then it says the scene had gone still. The raiders and the civilians had all gone still. And this is when Taylor realizes that they've got like blue gemstones and that they're probably part of an infiltrator group. And apparently there's 5 subgroups. Oh, Vic says she used her future sight to figure out the orders. Yeah, exactly. So they she puts together with all of this huge debris like a big ass cannon. It's says that it's snub nosed, but I mean, given how wide it is, even the snub nose must be quite big, because it says that it's twice as long as she was tall, so like 30 feet, and then it's got it fires a bullet nearly 10 feet across. And she just like blasts away 3 Yangban all at once with that, and apparently like clipped a bystander. I have to imagine he's ultra killed. Vic calls it the Chode Cannon. Dear Lord. And then this is when in bug speak that Taylor says don't injure civilians. There's no sign that she listened to that order. 4 Yangban members get gripped up by telekinesis, and then they just get launched directly upward. And she starts screaming extra louder, and then Taylor starts feeling paranoid, and then feeling paranoid about feeling paranoid. And then the Seamerg starts making more Tinker guns that are floating around her, like I guess they're like Gundam bits, or the extra, what do you call them? I used to know the name for them, but in those side-scroller shooters, the like things that are above and below your ship when you've got them that also shoot. So she's got some of those, and this is when Kid wins, like, she's stealing my tech, bro. Vic says 10 feet across, that's 6 feet. If we're trusting Taylor on it. Yeah, that's true. I should have thought of that. Taylor measurements are pretty fucking useless. Taylor looks at an ant. She's like, that's about 1 foot across. Taylor looks at a 3-story building. She's like, yeah, that's about 30 feet tall. Vic says, OMG, shut up, Kidwin. Um, yeah, so Taylor's still a worried, hurried Taylor. She doesn't like that the Seamerg is screaming. She doesn't like that they can't direct her. And she knows that people are getting hurt as collateral damage by this. And like, as much as we can justify, like, oh, maybe the Yangban will have killed more or different people, it's like whoever is alive or dead in this moment is very much determined by the Seamerg, which is not a good thing, shall we say. And then Aisha gives us an I don't know what to feel right now. It doesn't feel good, Taylor gives us. I wish I knew what I'd said that got her on board, Tattletale said. I went with the shotgun approach, trying to see what stuck, and now I don't know what to leverage if we needed to do it again. Rachel says, You're so whiny. You say you need her help. We got it. Good. Maybe now we can fight. Lung grunted. This is true. But I've seen what happens if you do something like this. Something big and you fall. You fall hard. Wise words, Lung. Well said. Do not talk to me. Classic moment. Lung's demeanor towards Taylor is like really a good dynamic in this whole section. I think it makes for a really interesting character to be there, I guess. Like, even more so than Sophia, I find their dynamic really cool. Vic says, Taylor's been waiting this whole time to say something nice to Lung. Yeah. Shadowstalker's like pissed off again, saying that basically like the weapons she uses are reliable and that this whole Endbringer strategy is like completely unreliable, etc. Taylor basically agrees, and then she says that they have like 3 options: clean, safe, and effective, and they have to pick one. So they're picking effective. And then we get sort of background info from Tattletale. They probably learned this while they were driving. But she says, we got Bohu, but she doesn't move fast at all. Leviathan's on his way to pay the elite a visit. Collateral damage could be ugly there. And then Taylor's saying that none of this is sustainable, and that if they don't have targets for the Endbringers to attack, they might just start attacking them again. And then they're sort of weighing the merits. They're saying that on one hand, they'll run out of people really fast. On the other hand, people won't fight them if they've got the Endbringers, like, sort of wrangling everything. And then it goes back to the battle. The Seamerg starts shooting again, blowing up a neighborhood that's already been reduced to dust and flame by a series of bomb blasts. And Imp says that this doesn't scream win-win to her. And then we get nothing saying this isn't another clever plan set up to fuck with us, destroy our last shreds of hope. And then the Yangban start shooting at the Seamerg, and there's like a... It sounds like a bullet hell game yet again. More references back to little side scroller and up downy shooty games. But Taylor's saying if they were in the Dragonfly being shot at like that, they couldn't get out of the way. But the Seamerg, of course, easily dances and dodges through. And then debris is blocking any shots that would hit. And then she, while prancing around, puts together yet a third gun and just blasts. And then she looks directly at Taylor, who had just said the thing about destroying their last shreds of hope. I mean, it's technically at a camera, but I think that Taylor's right when she goes directly at me, because it's like the way that the Seamerg thinks, she's thinking about the reaction that will be had, not the fact that she's actually looking at someone. I think Taylor's probably right in her paranoia, thinking she'd heard me, she understood, and she had responded. Dun, dun, dun! Then the chapter ends. Pretty good one, yet again. Although it is me saying this, so it's not the hardest bar to clear. Final chapter thoughts. I really didn't see this whole like aspect of the storyline come. I like basically said this in previous episodes, but I didn't really see this coming, like with them siding up with the Endbringers, and then I thought it was really interesting. And then I think my first reaction when the civilian was killed the first time was more of like the sort of side of basically like the Yangban were already going to kill that guy. But like the more time that I've spent post this scene and like the years it's been since I first read the book, I'm like, no, don't fall for it. Anyway, arc stuff. I don't know. This just feels like a smooth progression of the arc up to now. I think that this one's going good, chapter to chapter. And the break between last chapter and this one, yeah, I mean, if it had flowed as one chapter, would have had to be a page break anyway. And there wasn't enough in that last little segment for it to start a new chapter, I don't think. So this was a good length. Don't really think they should have started it earlier or ended it earlier or anything. And we've only got 2 more Taylor chapters and one interlude to go on this arc. Let's quickly go to the table of contents, and yeah, it goes to 28.6 and then 1 interlude. So we've still got some meat on these bones to gnaw. As far as characters, first section I had Hannah, Theo, Missy, and Christopher as one block. I don't know which of these people is the one that Taylor was referring to when she thinks Defiant had collected the heroes, the capes who might have been less inclined to throw their hat into the ring if I showed up in the company of Tattletale Imp and Rachel. I feel like that sentence is designed for a previous draft where there were different capes on the Pendragon, because I truly do not know which cape on the Pendragon she thinks wouldn't show up if the capes on the Dragonfly were there. That doesn't make sense to me in this scenario. That's like, just think of an Endbringer, and then this is like times 10 or times 100. Like, they would definitely work with all these people in an Endbringer fight. They don't provide much stuff, but Miss Militia does speak up at one point. So, and then they like consider using Vista's power, but they don't. Yeah, I just double checked. The stuff Miss Militia says really is just bare bones. It does help to flesh out the chapter by having more different voices speaking up in a dialogue, or like in a big conversation, even if they're saying something another character could have said. So we got Perrine and Foyle. They showed up with the heroes. I wonder. Almost like they're heroic in nature. Then again, Saint was with the heroes, and that guy's a piece of shit. He's next up, physically present but not important or contributing. Narwhal, as before, she gets basically one idea sentence per chapter to be like, what if we this? And this time they go with her idea, which is the opposite of before, where she's like, what if we snipe one of the Endbringers? And then they're like, kind of pretending like they're gonna do that to get people there, but then they don't. Anyway, Canary. You know, I hadn't thought about it this way, but Vic pointing out like the fact that Canary's giving the least pushback, although Rachel also gives no pushback. So Rachel and Paige give identical no pushback. They're both badasses / are beyond the fear event horizon, and they don't backtalk Tattletale at all. Defiant. I love that Defiant at this point, like, Defiant becomes more or less wholly on board with Taylor in the 2 years between the time skip, and it seems as though he is in general willing to defer to her, and like the other heroes are like kind of still dubious of Tattletale sometimes, but like just maybe it's because of his history with them or whatever, but Defiant is just like no questions asked, on board with all of these crazy plans. Vic says, Canary has literally never been in a fight and then puts herself point blank in front of the Seamerg. Wow. Yeah, it's true. It's very true. She gets to be in the bold category. For this, it kind of overwrites her hesitancy in other situations. So yeah, the whole dynamic between Defiant and Taylor and Lisa is, I think, it's really fun. And then for Lung, I pulled this little quote here of Taylor thinking. She's describing several people, but it's the people who weren't inclined to play cops and robbers, who weren't the types to follow the rules or codes, and were dangerous without a firm hand. Rachel, Lung, Sophia. They fell silent. The fighting stopped. Because they, even with their unique and personal issues, acknowledged that this wasn't a situation where you fucked around. And yeah, I Lung is hard enough to read that I still don't know if he's like was slightly losing confidence in the plan, or if he's just the type of guy who thinks like I don't know, like him saying that the situation was ridiculous and not wanting to do it for that reason made sense to me, because it's like feels like the kind of thing where if it was happening on a person to person level, it would make you look weak in front of your like enemy or in front of your gang member or whatever. But it, even a hard boy like Long might indeed be flinching away from the Seamerg, as she's the worst. Vic says he's ready to go mano a mano with Scion. I think he's just ready for a fight. Yeah. I do like that one of their backup plans is try and keep Lung in the fight long enough so that he can become nigh unkillable. I don't think it would work, but we'll see. I think I've said enough about Lung for now. Rachel, classic Rachel moment here. Has her like Rachel insights about the Endbringer personalities and how to get them to be angry enough to act out of their own best interest. So interesting insights. Aisha, we see that even Aisha has a limit to where she will stop the jokes for like a minute. But for her, that's a shockingly long time. the way that she's goading Sophia is extra good. I took this moment for the Sophia thing. Everyone ready? I asked. I looked around the craft. No responses, only silent nods. One head that was shaking. Shadow Stalker. Sophia's probably right. This is probably foolhardy. And yet, because she's the one who's not on board with the main character, we're shaking our head at her while she shakes her head about the situation. And we're like, get it together, Sophia. I think we basically talked through her during the chapter. Tattletale, she's having a bad time. She thought she'd have a fun time, but she's not having a fun time. She, like, makes this conversation kind of work, but she is ill-prepared. This was ill-considered. Yeah, I guess that's my main stuff about Tattletale. And then for Taylor, she's layering paranoia on top of paranoia. She's paranoid about the idea that she might get paranoid. So she's not in a good way. And she's, as discussed earlier, she's right to worry here. I think that's all I gotta say about the characters. I guess I would describe that if Taylor is saying something might be going too far, or they might be down the wrong path, then you know that it's serious because it's goddamn Taylor. Moving on to the powers, knowledge, and world building section. So I have a bunch of quotes here. I'll kind of go through them one by one. We've got fragile, as it only required the death of one bug to sever my connection with the swarm. I didn't mind. If she acted on my swarm, that was likely to be the least of our worries. I do like these little moments where they're acknowledging, like, the downsides of something and then just being like, but it didn't matter. We were gonna die. Oh yeah, this is the moment that's sort of describing what we see in the image, which is cameras change focus, zooming in on the Seamerg's face, hands, and various wingtips. Different cameras taking over as the Pendragon and Dragonfly rotated around her, and the cameras lost sight of the features in question. Mosaic views of her features, broken up like I might see if I were looking through the eyes of my bugs, but without my power to coordinate the picture, draw it into something cohesive. And, yeah, just the writing, I don't know. The moment-to-moment writing is really good, and, like, the details that are chosen to be included, the way that Taylor thinks about the world, all excellent. Love it. Oh yeah, then Tattletale saying, look at her, the folly of man, am I right? And then Taylor shakes my head at her. And I guess Seamerg is like the folly of man. She can turn anyone to madness and sort of destroy any designs and cooperation they may have. Okay, here. Her expression was neutral, but then again, the Seamerg's expression was always neutral. A face like a doll's, a cold stare. Beautiful in every conventional sense, in that every classically attractive feature was there, from the delicate thin frame to high cheekbones to the luxurious hair, horrifying in the manner it was all framed. The height that put her 2 to 3 times the height of an ordinary adult, the wings that filled the space around her, the feathers were surprisingly tough and dense, the edges capable of scoring steel. We're just reminded that she's a dense beef lord, even though she looks like a waif. She's a tall, sexy waif and a crystalline beef lord. So we got the Seamerg had situated herself above the ocean, an eerie parallel to how Scion had first appeared before humanity. Most of these are like things that I had drawn out of the chapter because I was like, I'm having a hard time fitting this into the summary without like totally like losing my way and just talking about every sentence, but like it's, I don't know, worth including to me. Eidolon's some kind of exception on a lot of levels. His power works by different vectors. The innate limits aren't there. Something broke, and I'm betting the Endbringers are tied to it. Like, this entity is fissioning off into countless fragments that impregnate the hosts, and somehow a little extra gets tacked on. Or Cauldron's method of replicating the fragments gets that little extra. And like even the idea that Cauldron's method I don't think is right. It's like Cauldron is drawing out the connection to existing fragments. Anyway, they're passengers? The shell? No. The outer shell, the concept, the execution, they're tapping into religious metaphors. The devil, the serpent, the angel, Buddha, Mother Earth, the maiden, each connected in turn to fundamental forces: flame, water, fate, time, the self. Things deep-seated and fundamental to their creator's belief system, because that's how the passengers interpret our world, through us. But deep down, beyond that surface, beyond the basic programming that drives them to do what they've been doing for 30 years, it's the passenger's brushstrokes, and I'm getting to her. Yeah, this is the final thing she was saying right as Defiant was being like, no, we already won the conversation. And yeah, like, it's weird. This section is full of, like, important, dense information, but on another way, it's like, if you just take everything that is said here at face value, then you get thrown off on the wrong course a lot. Kind of a weird duality of the chapter, but there's a lot to parse through. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't have anything more to say about that for now, so I'll go to the audience participation. So, to the question, what sort of mythological creature would you base an Endbringer on? What fundamental force would it be connected to? Vic says, since it's seasonal, Santa Endbringer, tied to the fundamental force of gift giving? Maybe it would be like, this would be an Endbringer who works through like the vector of teleportation that Trickster used. So you have to gift give part of yourself, and then the other person has to gift give part of their self, and then you like get swap grafted onto each other. And if you don't give the right amounts, then like you'll like die because it's like because like the wrong amounts of overlap are happening at the connection points. So they have to be perfect at gifting each other. You can only enter this fight on the hero side if you're a perfect gifter. Otherwise, you're going to throw off the balance. This is my very silly decision of what the Santa Endbringer can do. Vic says only comes around once a year. What about Christmas in July? What about Christmas in July? Yeah. I had thought, oh dang it, I had thought of one and I didn't write it down and am having trouble remembering. Well, with that disappointing news and the news that I don't have the question ready for next week, I think I'm going to try to come up with an answer to this question and an answer to my next question as a little makeup for this. Not that anyone is keeping score except me, but it'll make me feel better. Anyway, I'm going to start the song because we're at about that time where we got to start ending the stream, I think. How long is this? Ooh. It is a beefy speed draw. We will give it the point at which the owls start coming in and onward. There we go. So, as always, thank you, Vic, for being in the audience. It has very much helped to be able to have someone to talk through stuff. And yes, indeed, the owls. And then they just changed the view on the YouTube thing, so I'm trying to see where I can hit the description, because that's where I read. Huh. I really didn't consider that I wouldn't be able to look at the description. So this song that we're listening to is Extinction by ScarlettXOX. You can find her at twitch.tv/Scarlett_Rogue. The Discord link can be found in the stream description as well as the channel description. You can support Wildbow on Patreon at patreon.com/Wildbow. You can find the full work for free at parahumans.wordpress.com. parahumans.wordpress.com. I'm doing this all off memory. And then the Vic says I should really be Patreoning that guy. I have been Patreoning that guy for quite a long time now. Vic also says, bye! Yes. Bye indeed. I wanted to say the audiobook can be found at audioworm.rain-online.org. Freaking nailed it. I've said it enough times, I should be able to remember. But, yeah, that's all the links. I'm gonna let the rest of the little song play out, but I will talk to y'all when we review 28.5.